Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reporting. What a couple of weeks I've had. Holy moly. 30 million engagements on Twitter, number 2,300 out of 9 million accounts. It's been wild. And why is it? Because I'm spitting facts about a really important trend, and that's the way the politics are going for voters under 50. And it's like everybody in Washington, D.C. has no idea. They say things like, how could somebody under 40 vote for Trump and then go vote for a socialist? Well, we're going to explore that exact trend today because we have a wave of new, pretty shocking polling, and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on the internet as well that I think we all know the fourth turning is here. Objects in mirror are closer than they appear, and things are going to start to get wild. And this is kind of how I feel right now. This was posted by a guy named War for the West. And I think some of the things that I said this week may have actually had an impact, even though all you people call me a doomer and a panican. Listen, I'm giving advice. And the louder I give advice, the better a chance there is that it's going to get heated. And what do we have? We had a horrifying Republican loss not too long ago because Democrats and independents did not show up for Republicans. Surprise, surprise. But everybody on the right wanted to pretend that everything would be fine. And no, it's not fine. And then Donald Trump, after, 10 years of following this guy, he gets a chance. The first real chance the right has to fix things. He has a pretty underwhelming 10 months. I think we all expected more. I mean, yes, there have been some major accomplishments, but the last couple of months has just been unforced error after unforced error, and clearly priorities focused on the wrong things and trying to get some reprioritization. But this week, with everybody wondering what's going on, for Donald Trump to come out there and just shoot himself in the foot and saying things that are 180 degrees opposite of what his core younger voter wants. These guys do not want traditional conservatism. They do not want big business republicanism. They don't want more debt. They don't want higher house prices. They don't want those things. They want economic populism and brutal reform. And you have to deliver on it. Time for talking is over. All of a sudden, I'm hearing new Republican officials saying, well, now we should have a discussion about H-1B. Nope. The internet already had that discussion, and you just haven't caught up. They want this thing done. And if you give it to them, then maybe you will be ruling the government for 50 years. Not just H-1B. I mean, it's like all of the stuff. You need to do all of the things. Now, a lot going on, but let's start with Trump approval. And it is now dropped to net approval of -10. Approval is 44%, the lowest of the term so far. It was -9 the day before and -8 2 days before that. And I hope it bottoms out before it gets to Biden territory. I really do. Obviously, he was in the high 30s in August of 2017. I don't think we're going to see that again because I think he's changing course. But right track is now down to 36. And that's pretty colossally bad considering that for 37 straight weeks it was above 40 and that we even got to 50%. Yep, when Donald Trump was delivering on Doge. Oh, but Doge is still there. Well, it doesn't matter if you're not taking credit. There needs to be a flooding of the zone with positive populist and reform wins. Flood the zone. Broad spectrum approach to unscrewing America. And again, the GOP voter is sticking with Donald Trump. And here's the rub. This is a likely voter poll, and people say they're likely to vote. And here's the rub. This is a likely voter poll, and people say they're likely to vote. And Republican voters will probably turn out. And independents here are giving him a -17. He was -27 on election day. So maybe that's not so bad, but these people will probably just not show up for Republicans. That's the problem. The problem isn't that the poll numbers collapse, it's that voter enthusiasm collapses, and that never seems to happen on the left. Everybody's like, oh, look, the Democrats lost the shutdown fight. And that may be. We have some polling that says that. We can go into it next week, but their voters are still going to turn out. And that's the problem. But again, there have been some wins. JD Vance came out and talked a really big game about getting illegal immigrants out of here as rapidly as possible, reminding America that this is one of the ways that they're approaching the housing price crisis. It wasn't 50-year mortgages. Of course, the press is beating them up because the press is pro-business and they want the cheap labor. They want the Democrat votes from all the illegals who are voting illegally. Why haven't we heard about any investigations into that? Just wondering. And I'm pretty sure in this speech, he didn't really talk about H-1Bs at all. And that might be a problem because everybody on the internet is boosting the Charlie Kirk plan that includes a massive scale back of legal immigration and temporary work programs. And I think one of the frictions you're going to see is that the people who donated to and support Donald Trump and are in his administration, they kind of signed on for getting rid of the border invasion. Like that was their limited hangout. But immigration, like being able to replace American jobs with offshoring and visas, that's their sacred cow. And so watch very closely the words out of the administration because I don't know. It looks like we might have a problem with like an expectation setting situation. There's some other wild stuff too. I mean, we've been talking about the fourth turning, and it is the fourth turning, and we're seeing massive changes. But it's kind of wild. This came out. I guess this is Axios Scoop. Israel seeks a 20-year military aid deal with the U.S. with American first tweaks. That's interesting. I think they have an existing aid deal that runs out in 3 years. So I guess it makes sense that they would try to renegotiate one. But it also comes, a month away from our published polling that shows that Israel is losing the youth, and they know it. And so maybe they're trying to lock in their gains and they're using America first. They took a lesson from JD Vance. People want America first. And so maybe they're using it to get this. I don't know, because the writing's on the wall about this and other things. And here's some other writing on the wall to talk about the fourth turning. I don't really think very many people have done math like this. I don't know if you know this, but there are more octogenarians in the Senate than there are millennials. And that's a really weird situation. Of course, there's less than 10 of either of them. But if you look at all of our national elected representatives, 60% are boomers and only 14% are millennials or younger. The next election, the millennials might be closer to 20%, a big uptick. And then the number is going to absolutely skyrocket because these boomers are going to start dying off. So all of Washington, D.C. should be focused on understanding the shift and what the new politics is. What do these youth care about? That is what I've been screaming about, and people need to know. Because here's an interesting situation. This dropped an hour ago. Tucker Carlson blowing up the internet again. This with a half-hour documentary on who was Thomas Crooks. Well, who was Thomas Crooks? Young kid, young, angry male, really frustrated with the situation in America. And it turns out he started out as a really violent right-wing Trump guy. And then somewhere around the COVID mass formation, he became a very violent left-wing guy. Then maybe he met somebody. There's this, Willie Tepes or whatever. I don't know. I don't think we know all the answers yet. But people ask, well, how can a Trump voter under 40 go and vote for a socialist? Well, it's because they're confused. And really what they're angry about isn't ideologies. They don't care about socialism or conservatism. They just want the world fixed. They want a strong man, and they're going to take violent action increasingly, in my opinion, if they don't see a fix. We know the left is going to potentially provide a fix. It's going to be, give me that and raiding the treasury. What is the right pragmatic governance solution to these people who are going to increasingly control the government faster and faster and faster? The boomers have been entrenched. We've had governance by boomers' values. And that's this, epic struggle between right and left. It's not going to work anymore. You can't lecture these people out of voting for somebody that's going to have strong action. This person was confused. He was unhappy with society being eroded, unhappy with the collapse of the rule of law, just unhappy with chaos. They want order, period. Provide order and fairness and plenty. And I laid out that plan in my last video, which was my interview with Alex Jones. It's an hour long. Everybody go check it out. I think it's the most important hour I've ever had on TV. But it's just weird how much that this threads through everything that's going on right now. This is a story that was carried in Zero Hedge. And it's like even worse than the fourth turning because there's all these dynamics, these situations that nobody really expects. Like there is chaos built into this system. Why the world's fate hangs on 2.5 million older Americans, because there was a post-pandemic collapse in the participation rate of older American workers who identified as the most important structural development in the world economy. Yeah, they just quit. They're like, COVID, this sucks. I'm out of here. Dual drivers of retirement, two primary factors are cited for this wave of excess retirements. Health disincentives. The U.S. approach to lockdowns led to a higher likelihood of older, more vulnerable Americans contracting COVID and its after effects, creating a strong disincentive to continue working. Well, they were worried about themselves, the boomers, and the stock market boom. Stocks play a dominant role in the wealth of older Americans and not of the younger Americans who can't afford houses, let alone the stock market. The post-COVID boom in the stock market afforded an extra 2.5 million individuals the financial means to retire early. Not only that, I think history will tell us that the 4 years of Biden We're rampant with corporate welfare. Rampant with corporate welfare. Green gimme dats, infrastructure contracts, PPP loan forgiveness that went 80% to corporations, massive expansion of the H-1B program, which is corporate welfare, massive expansion of the SNAP program, all kinds of corporate welfare. You ever wonder why all these corporations lined right on up to push that vaccine mandate down your throat? That's the reason I'm not in corporate America anymore. So there was this major dislocation driven essentially by Joe Biden's donors looting the treasury and the boomer generation cashing out while still being in control, while still clinging to power in the country, while the entire working class under 50 has been hollowed out and is destitute. This is coming to a head. And you see these arguments. This guy responded to that article. And there are some good boomers. I like a lot of them, like my buddy Gary on Twitter. But some of them, you can just see this. And this isn't ageism. I'm trying to help you understand the shifting politics. Go listen to Bob Dylan. Times are changing. Don't know what angle you're working here, but older Americans have already paid their dues, contributed to their fair share, and shouldn't be shouldering the world's fate. Maybe it's time for the younger generations and perpetual bureaucrats to step up for a change. Well, the bureaucrats are your generation, and the younger generation doesn't know how to step up. They can only take so many Uber driving jobs. They don't know how to step up, and you're sitting probably on average in a $2 million house in a blue coastal area, sitting on like a $5 million stock portfolio, and you're going to be, drawing Social Security and Medicare, a program that's not going to be there for these younger generations. You have to understand it's getting wild, and they're very intransigent generation. We're headed to, I think, a messy fourth turning because you're seeing young people post stuff like this. Boomers have a different kind of oof coming when the Zoomer Millennial Alliance confiscates their assets to transfer to Gen Alpha and restore the natural order. And yes, this crusade, objects in mirror are closer than they appear. I'm trying to help you understand this change. Am I pushing this change? I'm a Zennial. I'm right on the line. I'm like Switzerland in this whole thing. I'm the least, associated with. I grew up in a boomer America, and now I live in a Zoomer millennial America. These people understand me. They call me an old head and a boomer fag or whatever. But I also saw that the Groypers gave me like an honorary Pepe. I don't know. But anyways, here is the new math. And people can complain about Tucker and Nick Fuentes. How many times do I have to tell you? One, all the people who follow Nick Fuentes are not Groypers. Now there's probably a population of 10 to 30 million people who have seen him and said, oh, I don't know who this guy is, but he's not really talking that retarded. And they don't know the stuff he said. And the stuff that he said doesn't matter to them because they're not Groypers. They're just like, oh, some guy. Same thing with Candace Owens. Same thing with Tucker Carlson, who, again, is going to blow up the internet today. And they don't understand his politics. Well, if you strip out the troll stuff, he's got a pretty reasonable set of takes. And somebody said, if those effing idiots are the future of the Republican Party, the Republicans will lose to the Dems all day and every day, and socialism will be the next dominant political party in the country, and the U.S. as we know it will be gone forever. This is boomer talk. They think that conservative values are going to win the day. Nobody will ever vote for socialism. They're effing grifters and POS. Well, you're dismissing 10 to 30 million people who watch this stuff, angry young men who can't put bread on the table, let alone find a partnerable mate. These people are getting really mad. They're posting crusade memes at you, dude. And no, they're not grifters. Everybody's dismissing this. Oh, they're just brown people on the other side of the world watching Nick Fuentes. No, dude. My following, I have a lot of Nick Fuentes and Groyper followers just because I'm not going to try and stuff these guys into a digital ghetto. And, my following is on average, my age, 44, makes a ton of sense, but I got a ton of followers, and like 99% of them are all in the US. They're all in the US. Imagine that. Americans care about American public opinion. But if you put the same candidate, same person, two people who are the same, clones, and one had Nick's platform, minus the Hitler talk, and the other one was the Heritage Foundation's platform, guess who's going to win with voters under 50? It's going to be Nick Fuentes' platform all day long. And it's going to be throw people in jail, make insane asylums, get rid of all the immigrants, return to Christianity. These people want order. The Heritage Foundation is lose on principle. That's not what these people want. They want to win. They want to win for America. They really are America only, not America first, America only. And it's great that JD Vance is trying to grease the skids with America first, but look how much that's already starting to blow up the world. But anyways, we got the story. This is one of a series of multiple stories we'll release, again, graciously sponsored by the Heartland Institute and Stopping Socialism. Justin Haskins, these people are the best. I think I already saw him go on Glenn Beck with this, but since it's sponsored, you can go to our website, rasmussenreports.com. Go check this article out. You can see it on the front page carousel or under recently released items. And down at the bottom is the link to the crosstabs, which everybody can see. And that's where all the good stuff is, the crosstabs. So this is, 1,500 U.S. likely voters under the age of 40 in America. And this actually, the Trump approval wasn't that bad. I saw 18 to 29s get a 35% Trump approval a week ago on election day. It seems like the youth have kind of chilled out a little bit. I think Snap was a big driver. And then sometimes you just get a more conservative sample. It happens. But this is just like a benchmark. I just want you to put it in your head. These people have a 48% approval of Trump in this poll, driven up by the older people who are definitely more conservative, 50%. The younger ones were only 44%, though. Not that bad. Again, this was 35% a week ago. It happens. And it's probably weighted a little bit different because instead of waiting to the entire likely voter population, I had to wait for a model of what I thought the whole under 40 look like. And it's really tough with these guys because Republicans, again, do not match conservative, do not match Trump. And so this is what we got. So, this poll, 48% approve, 50% disapprove. So he's net -2 here. And that's actually a good thing, that you also acknowledge this is a poll with recalled vote Harris +6. So these people voted for Harris by 6 points, but still approve of Trump, which is kind of wild. And the young ones voted by Harris by 10 points here. And they still, what are they? They're underwater 9 points on Trump. But the next presidential election is in 2028. Would you like to see a Democrat socialist candidate win the 2028 presidency? 51% say yes, 32% say no. They don't care about conservatism. They say, well, socialism, how bad can it be? Everything else has failed me. And it's the women more than men by a lot, 54 to 28. And it's really the young ones, 18 to 24, 57 to 27. Now, the boomer argument would be, don't these people know history? No, you took it out of their schools and taught them gay stuff. That's it. I'm sorry. You can blame them for being stupid, sure. Not working hard, sure. But you did create this mess for them and dropped it in their laps. These people had no control over the America that they inherited. And now you're telling them to work harder to pay for your Medicaid? Like, come on, guys. You got to be less selfish. The minorities definitely like socialism, Hispanic and blacks. And, we're still inviting people into this country and trying to, worry about conservatism versus socialism. How about shut the doors? How about eject a whole lot of people if you care about conservatism? I don't even think JD Vance is really talking about, getting rid of temporary work visas because the Republican Party is a party of big government. This is what their donors want, the big business. They want the immigrants. They don't care. They don't care about socialism. In fact, the companies will probably do pretty well under socialism. Look at how they did under Biden. You're playing a losing game, Republicans. You're selling America down the river, and everybody knows it. They're watching you now. They understand this grift. 82% of Democrats under 40 want socialism. This is the future of the Democrat Party. It is socialist. It is not Bill Clinton anymore. These people don't even know who that was. And the Republicans, 24% want socialism, only 65% say no. So there's a huge crossover there. And the independents under 40 say socialism, 37 to 31. Conservatives, people who are conservative, 42% say they'd vote for a Democrat socialist. I mean, let's find Trump voters out here. Evangelical Christians would vote for socialists. Muslims, 67%. Atheists, 66%. People in urban and suburban areas, rurals, go no, but only by 4 points. And here's the Trump voters. 27% of Trump 2024 voters under 40 would vote for a Democrat socialist. Only 58% say no. You see the problem here? That should be like 100 and 0, but it's clearly not. And now we're talking about crisis. Has the cost of housing in America reached a crisis level? 74% say yes, 17% say no. Everybody across the age spectrum, but look, the older people say crisis more, 81% to 12, and women more. They're worried about, I guess settling down more. I don't know. But Republicans, 66% say yes, 24% say no. Democrats, 82%. Independents, 71 to 16. All parts of the ideological spectrum, Zoran Mamdani, a Democrat socialist, is currently the frontrunner to win New York's next mayoral race. This was before the election. Do you have a very favorable, somewhat favorable, blah, blah, blah? 52% favorable and 34% unfavorable. So he's like almost plus 20 in a poll that has Trump underwater 2 points. So again, there's complacency and normalcy in here. Like the anger, the intensity is buried among a whole cloud of mushy people who are somewhat agreeable and they don't know much about Mamdani. So like, sure. And that's the thing too, is you're going to look at the polling and you're going to see, well, they don't really hate Trump that bad. But then you have your Thomas Crooks. Like these people are out there, the people who can't put their food on the table and they disappear into these numbers and nobody cares or listens about them. So, there's an age signal, but not too much. Democrats have a favorable impression, 66% to only 11, but 38% of Republicans favorable to only 40% unfavorable. In this poll, Donald Trump is -2 with everyone, and Mamdani is -2 with Republicans. Don't you see the situation here? Conservatives, 49% of conservatives under 40 have a favorable impression of Mamdani. 35% have an unfavorable impression. They just want answers. And if Mamdani ran for presidency, he would probably loot the treasury and give these people a lot of money and they'd be able to reorder their own lives. This is about them. They want some of that same selfishness that prior generations enjoyed. Mamdani's policy platform includes a proposal to create government-owned grocery stores to help reduce the rising cost of food. Would you support a law that would expand his proposal for government-run stores to every town in America? 58% support, 30% do not. Again, a little bit of an age signal. The younger people are more supportive. Look at Republicans. What is that? 46%? 46% of Republicans approve nationalizing the entire grocery industry? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Only 42% disapprove. And, the Democrats and Republicans aren't that far apart. And 53% of conservatives approve of that. Mamdani's policy platform includes a proposal to freeze rent in many of the city's apartments and to build 200,000 new rent-regulated apartments. Would you support a proposal in Congress to expand his plan for more government housing and rent freezes nationwide? 62% support, 16% do not, and it's 50% of Republicans. Half of Republicans support rent freezes and government housing. Unbelievable. 38% oppose, only 38% oppose, and more conservatives, 56%. The values do not matter. There's almost as many conservatives who support this as liberals. They don't care. They just want it fixed. They want to be able to reorder their own lives because you can't reorder the government. That's what it comes down to. Are you more likely to vote for a Democrat, Republican, or a candidate from another political party in the 2028 election? So this is a poll that has Donald Trump underwater 2 points on job approval, but Democrats are winning by 15 points here. Republicans are only getting 31%. Pretty abysmal. Democrats, 88% would pick the Democrat, but only 77% of Republicans would pick the Republicans. Only 57% of conservatives would pick the Republicans. So it's not even that they maybe don't understand conservatism or don't believe the values make sense or define conservative a little bit different than you do. Heritage Foundation, probably a lot of it is they think that you guys suck, and their idea of conservatism is probably like an iron fist on lawlessness and stuff like that. So the Republicans under 40 are not firm Republicans. That's why you really got spanked in New Jersey and Virginia. They are not firm Republicans. And they gave Donald Trump a chance. They really liked what he was doing when he was actually reordering the government, and they abandoned him. And now they're going to flock towards Mamdani. The writing is on the wall. him and the way the Democrat Party is going to redefine themselves. They are the party of Democrat socialism now. Chuck Schumer is on the way out. We have polling numbers. We're going to look at them in the next video. He's done. His part of the party is over. The squad won. And what radicalized Thomas Crooks? Well, apparently the squad. And so you're going to have a lot of problems because the Republican Party, they're one of the ones that have a whole heck of a lot of boomers down there, and they do not see the writing on the wall. So help me get it out there. Please like the video, share, put it on your timelines on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Honest Pollster. Please go to our main account, Rasmussen_poll, and check out our other YouTube account, Rasmussen_rewind. It's where I post some of the other content I have. And please, nobody is supporting this. This is like basically charity for America. Please go to RasmussenReports.com. Please sign up for a reader subscription. It's like $5 a month. Like, I just don't have time for Patreon. I'd love to do it. Or locals. I just can't do it. I'm getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night now, just blasting on Twitter, trying to make these people see. And I think we're getting some progress, as the last 24 hours have said. So please, again, if you like that work I did, and hopefully the impact I had, hit like.